So let's just start with our opening meditation, inviting everybody to mute their phone. Remember to mute if you're not speaking. And let's just start with some conscious breathing. Really feeling our body, moving from our mind, moving from whatever thoughts or busyness we might have been in, coming into our body through the breath. And feeling yourself connected to the earth. And feeling your crown chakra connected to the heavens. And imagining the cord that runs all the way through your chakras, through your spinal column, from your connection to the earth to your connection to above. And remembering that we are children of the earth, but we are also spiritual beings having a human experience. And we're leaving the world of right and wrong. We're leaving the world of judgment, blame, shame, criticism. And we're just entering that incredible field of compassion for how hard it can be sometimes having a human experience. It can be wonderful, it can be awesome. But tonight we're working on how to manage when it's really hard, when we're triggered, when we're losing it. That's what we're working on tonight. So I want to thank all of you for your commitment to growth and to learning, evolution. And I invite each of you to think of, remember a recent time where you got triggered and you lost it, where you didn't feel grounded, you didn't feel centered. If it happened yesterday, that's okay. If it happened a year ago, that's okay. If it happened more than 10 years ago, you get to lead the class. But remembering seriously a time when we were really triggered, and I was like, oh God, what do I do? This is so hard. I'm in so much pain right now. And I invite you to remember whatever thoughts were going through your brain. Just a few. Don't get lost in the story, but what are some of the thoughts about yourself or about the other or another? What were some of your judgmental thoughts? We're not going to stay there, but they might have been there. They probably were there. It's part of the human experience. And then underneath our judgments, always are unmet needs, unmet values. What were your unmet needs? What were your unmet values? Safety, connection, respect, consideration, appreciation. Those are some of the more common unmet needs or values when we're triggered. And when we're having those really uncomfortable feelings that go along with the unmet needs, what were your uncomfortable feelings? Were you angry? Were you scared? Were you hurt? Were you confused? So just getting in touch with that. And then finally, what were your body sensations? Did you feel contracted in particular places? sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, sore or contracted throat, heart pounding, shaking. We have bodies, and our bodies have their own intelligence and their own reactions when we're in such discomfort. And so I want to invite all of us over the next 3 minutes to put into the chat box, not the story, just emotions, body sensations, and unmet needs. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for sharing so vulnerably. And I invite you, after you've written yours, to just read the others. And just, it creates this incredible compassion for, and isn't something how we don't need to even know the story. The story doesn't even matter. What matters is, I'm looking at Laura's right now, scared, rush of blood flow, the need for empathy and understanding. That's all I need to know to have compassion for Laura's experience. We don't need to know the story. The story can even get in the way of feeling. The story, we get into our mind, we start colluding, oh my God, yeah, he did this, that, or the other thing. But when we just look at these things, Mandy, the unmet need to be heard and understood. God, that was mine. I also want to be heard and understood. Body sensation, clenched fist, fast-paced breathing, body heating up, anger, bewilderment, blindsidedness. Oh my God, it brings back all of our own memories of when we've had that experience. Compassion is based on dropping into the feelings and the unmet needs and values or the body sensations. That's where we find the commonality. Do you see how common our human experience is? That we could have spent the same amount of time listening to somebody tell a story and would feel some care, but we wouldn't necessarily feel as connected as perhaps we all do right now, as we see all the shared human experiences that each of you have gone through that remind us of when we've had that experience. And how common so many of them are. A lot of you have the same things written. You know, catch that. So the first part of this process was just to create that connection, that commonality. And then we're going to continue on, of course, but I'd love to open it up to any thoughts, reflections, or feelings that anybody's having just in this part of the practice. What comes up for people? Laura, and then Mimi, and then Daniel.
Mine's just real fast. I just want to say that it is so interesting when you're in a group like this on how you really get the shared experience and you feel not alone, and everyone's almost wanting the same things, even if, especially if they could leave the world of right and wrong, right? Like we all just want the same thing. We don't have to agree, but we have to know we all want to be understood and heard and appreciated.
Yeah. And you know what? Any one of us could have been talking about whatever person hurt us, right? And we could get lost in how the other person was bad or wrong, a bitch, an asshole. We could get lost in the collusion and the gossip and the make wrong and miss the depth of the human experience, miss the compassion that we feel just by looking at these body sensations, these feelings, these unmet needs and values. Mimi, you're up.
What I found really intriguing was how quickly my body goes there, even though it happened some time ago. Like it's just big, unless you're working, I find that working in group settings, I'm able to like de-escalate really quickly, but I'm astounded at how quickly my body's like, we're right there again. So that was really intense. Like, I'm like, wow, okay, clearly we have more to do here. So
Right. Beautiful. Thank you, Mimi. Daniel.
Yeah, so what comes up for me is, the other night, Scott, I talked to you, and I needed some empathy. I needed to be heard and understood. And I went in, I had a lot of story, a lot of details and a lot of make wrong and a lot of victim even. And it didn't feel even, I almost felt ashamed or unsatisfied until we got to the point of, okay, what am I feeling and what am I needing? And we just dropped into the empathy part of it. That was the most real part of it for me.
So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And actually the irony of it is in your particular situation, I'm actually glad you went into the whole story, painful as it was, because to be honest, hearing this story, because it was a very painful and challenging story, helped me to drop into a much deeper level of empathy. So I want to make it clear that one-on-one coaching, it's not bad to hear the story. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes people need to tell the story. But what we do want to listen for are the feelings and needs. So as coaches and as friends, our job is to listen to the story as long as the person needs to express it, but not to get lost in collusion of the make wrong part of it, right? So I'll take it away from Daniel. Let's say I listened to a story from Hank, and Hank was telling me about his best friend, John, and what John did to him. If I get lost in, oh man, what an asshole John was, I'm missing the point. Oh, wow, you felt shocked that John would do that. And you were hurt and really confused, and you're feeling lost and overwhelmed, right? Our job is to translate the story into feelings and needs. Now, sometimes people will help you. Sometimes people will say, they'll tell you what they were feeling and needing. But other times it's our job to guess or imagine or translate. So it's not that someone telling the story is bad or wrong. It may be a necessary part of their process, but our job is to translate it or bring it down into the feelings and needs and body sensations. Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments, reflections that come up for people? Anuprabha.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful exercise. It just is really powerful and succinct. And I think for me, probably for everybody, is just like a really wonderful way just to really, you know, take down the story a lot, and also the guilt of I acted out and maybe when I was triggered. And yeah, maybe that's it, because I just had a thing today. You know, it's amazing how these classes happened, you know. Just, you know, it's really powerful, you know, because in this healing process, this journey that we're on, you know, we're open and willing, right? And so I was so triggered today with my son, and it was powerful, and I got really triggered, and I was listening to myself as I was getting triggered, being triggered, feeling it, and just not being able really to stop it. And so, you know, it's powerful to look at this. And so I really appreciate this work in this way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It really is kind of amazing. You know, so
Yeah.
often the clients I'm working with, as I'm working with them, it's like there's things they're working on or things that we're having to do in practice that are in direct alignment with what I'm working on in my relationship or my life or my exploration. It's pretty amazing how that works out.
Yeah. And I can see how, you know, with this work, you know, because we deeply love each other, you know, and these things happen. And I can see how he'll really relate to this when he comes home. Like I think we can work on this level now that it's really succinct, dropping that story and just going into the emotions and body sensations and the unmet needs. I think it's going to be a powerful healing for both of us.
Absolutely. I'm putting into the Love Coach Academy chat box the document that we're about to work with. So give me a moment to do that. I also put in there the link to the Love Coach training. So you'll have it there again. And
Scott, may I ask a question?
yeah, just give me 1 second. I think I got it. Okay, I'm all yours. What's up?
Do you have a quick way to steward and guide somebody out of a story? Like if they're really wrapped in story and do you have a quick way, a tip for helping to read?
Yeah, go straight into their feeling. So once you are pretty clear as you hear the story, they were really angry because they didn't get their need for respect met, go, wow, I'm imagining you were really angry because your need for respect wasn't met. You take them there. You just take them right there. If the other thing that is common is if you give empathy and they keep going back to the story, then you can say, I'm hearing that you were really angry because your need for respect wasn't met. Rather than telling the story again, what else is it you really want me to know? What feelings am I missing? What unmet needs were there, right? You just point them in that direction, right? And for some people, going into feelings and needs is like science fiction. It's a whole nother deal. And then of course, for other people, they're like, oh yeah, they can identify it. You know, Katrina's cards are good, especially for people who need time to really think, or just using the list of universal human needs. That's what I tend to do. I'll pull up the list. And here, I can pull it up for you guys. I think you guys are pretty familiar with it. But let me do it real quick. You know, and oftentimes, because I do most of my sessions by Zoom, and so I'll just pull up the list of universal human needs and ask them. Let me zoom, make this a little bit larger. Okay, there we go. And all of you should have this list and really utilize it. And it's a great list. Can you all see it okay? Laura, give me a thumbs up if you see it okay. Thanks. And what's nice about it is it's broken down, the words in black are the categories, and then there's kind of like the subcategories, and then there's like the very specific examples. And honestly, looking at this list periodically, especially as coaches, is really valuable because it will remind you of unmet needs and values. You know, like I'll look at it, I mean, I've been working with this list for 15 years, and I'll still look at it and go, wow, That's right. Making sense of life is a value, right? Or it'll also help me to remember, oh, that's what's going on with my client. She's really struggling with making sense of life, right? So it's just great to periodically review it and certainly share it with people. And for a lot of people, it points them in directions that they didn't realize were unmet needs. For a lot of adults, realizing how important it is to have play, the importance of play is a common unmet need for adults, especially if they have 3 kids and 2 jobs, right? So, well, let's just play with it for a minute. I'd love for each of you, as you look at this, pick one word that you haven't thought about for a while. One word that as you look at it, you go, wow, yeah, I would love more sexual expression. I would love more ease. I would love more mutuality. Everyone pick 1 or 2 words and pop them in the chat box. What are 1 or 2 words that you're recognizing you'd like to have more of, and you haven't thought about that for a while? And you can still access the chat box. You got to go up to the top, take your cursor up to the top, and in the upper right-hand corner where it says more, and then hit chat box. Nice. In answer to Mimi's question, while you guys are putting in, Katrina created a set of cards that you can pull out. And it's like a whole box of cards, and it's like 100 cards of needs, 100 emotions when we're uncomfortable, emotions when we are comfortable, and values, character strengths. And Michaela writes, the cards are wonderful. And they are. Yeah, and I can, if you're interested, I can, I think it's giftofmyheart.com. I'll look it up. Yes, you can purchase it. I'll get Katrina's information to you. You can email her and tell her I referred you, and that you're taking my class. She's probably going to come in as a guest teacher into the class sometime early next year. But you can email her and she can get you details on how to get the cards. They're great. They're really nice. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You are going to remember that painful time you got triggered. And I'm going back to gallery view for a minute. Did everybody come up with at least one experience where they got triggered that you're going to work with? Everybody have one to work with? Okay, great. Angel, I didn't see you raise your hand, but I'm hoping that you came up with one as well. We're going to go through a 1-page document that Emily and I created probably a couple of years ago. And I want you, as you look at these steps, to imagine what your experience might have been like if you had gone through these steps. So I'm going to pull it up on the screen. We'll look at it together. And we're going to basically walk through the steps, and then you can keep this, this document, right? But by remembering when you guys were triggered and didn't have these tools, and didn't have this particular process, and then applying it, it's a wonderful way to do it. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? Okay, cool. So let me get rid of universal human needs for a minute. That, expand that, go to, I had it pulled up, and then when I pulled up the universal human needs, it got in the way. There we go. Daniel, can you see that? Is that good for everybody? Laura, can you see it? Okay, great. So, again, these are all things, these are tips to remember. And they're all really important. Catch yourself early. Huge, 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 huge. The very first moment it begins to feel awkward. It begins to feel, like when we're taking connected timeouts, most people wait until it's red light to call yellow light. The key is to notice what goes on in my system. What's my very first early warning signal? For some people, it's in our mind. This feels shitty. I don't trust this person. I'm feeling judged. I'm feeling criticized. For some people, it's mental. For some people, it's a body sensation. It's a somatic experience that starts. Learn what are your early warning signals and catch it at the very first stage. And with people that you've established connected timeouts, yellow light, let's connect. Yellow light, let's connect. So catch yourself early. I want to ask all of you, as you think about the experience you had, what's the earliest moment, theoretically, if you were thinking this way, if you had this practice down, what's the earliest moment you could have caught, danger? What's the earliest moment where you really could have caught this before it spun out of control? I'm not going to have us respond to that, but just memorize that. Notice that. Wow, when could I have caught this? The next step is slow down. Take that long, slow breath. Once you realize, again, if it's Rob and Laura, they can call yellow light, right? If you're by yourself, you got to slow down, breathe, come back into breath. The breath is what slows us down. And then take a pause. If you're in the middle of it with somebody, if they don't know about connected timeouts, then you say, excuse me, I really care about you. I need to take a walk. I need to take a few minutes. I need to take space. I need to go to the bathroom. Excuse yourself and go into step 3. How triggered am I on a scale of 1 to 10? And be honest with yourself. I'm at a 9. If you're at a 9, you're going to need some significant time. If you're at a 2 or 3, you can get back to that person or to that conversation probably in a reasonable amount of time. So you got to really get clear on how triggered you are and learn how to rate yourself and be honest about it. Be honest with yourself. Be honest. Don't be spiritual. Be honest. Okay. Ground and center. Feel your connection to the earth. You've all heard me say it so many times. I love that Mother Earth, through gravity, is always holding us. We are always being held by our true mother. Always. Then go inside. Basically, what am I feeling? What are my unmet needs? And like we just talked about, if you need to, look at the list of feelings and needs. Get out Katrina's cards, pull the cards, or look at the list. What am I feeling? What am I needing? And then once you've done that, giving yourself empathy and learning how to give yourself empathy. Is it putting your hand on your heart? Is it remembering when those needs have been met? Is it mourning the unmet needs? Is it just acknowledging, I'm feeling really sad right now? I'm feeling really scared right now. Or is it offering you reassurance? I am safe. He's not going to hurt me. I'm safe. Whatever it is. For some of you, it might be more of a meditative thing, calling upon God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, angels, guides. That's okay. learning how to soothe yourself, how to give yourself empathy. All forms of self-connection, meditation are okay. So I'm going to stop this for a moment and come back to the group. And I'd love to open it up to what some of you have noticed about yourself. What might you do differently? What could you have done differently? What are some practices that come to mind if you had applied this set of tools to your situation? I'd like to share what you've noticed, what comes up for you. Allison.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm happy to see all of you, beautiful people. I want to give you just a very quick background on when I was triggered, just so that you have context, which was when one of my sons hurt the other one. It just happened actually today, and it wasn't clear whether it was an accident or it was on purpose at the time. And I heard my son crying, and I have like I have lightning speed trigger when I hear one of my children crying. It was just like every protective mother instinct goes into, those of you who have children, you understand, and those of you who don't probably understand too, because when you're taking care of somebody who's vulnerable and smaller than you, there's just this need to protect. So I went in and I was triggered. My heart was pounding. I said, "What happened? What happened? What happened?" And I saw that my younger son said, he hit me in the head with this thing, and he did it on purpose. So that was really hard to step back and take a long, slow breath, which I tried to do. And I started to say, "What is wrong with you?" And I stopped myself in the middle. I said, "What is?" And my son went, "What is?" And my older son said, "Mom, choose your words carefully. It was an accident." And I said, "Thank you. I will do that. Would anyone like a cuddle?" They both wanted one. The one who got hurt and the one who did the hurting. So I just had a huge armful. And it just reminded me so palpably, I need to catch myself in my assumptions as quickly as I can. Because in situations like that, when I feel so protective, I am so much more ready to assume than I would ever be in another circumstance. And I would never feel good about assuming that quickly in any other circumstance. But it happens with the mama instinct. So I'm really noticing that. And I am really appreciating this list, Scott, because I need to give myself empathy because my first story that I tell myself is, how could you have let this happen? How could you have not heard that this happened? How could you be too late to get in when he already got hurt? You shouldn't have been cooking dinner without listening, the things that are not logical. So giving myself empathy is huge, and getting grounded. And then, of course, I have a very wise son who said, "Mom, take a breath and choose your words carefully." And that was huge.
That's really cool. Thank you. Beautiful story. Thank you. And one thing about her story that I want, let's all twinkle Allison. Twinkling for Allison. Thank you. Sometimes when there's chaos happening, it is absolutely okay to say, let's all slow down. Let's all breathe. And as a coach, especially when I'm working with couples, that happens, right? Let's all slow down. Let's all breathe right now. Let's slow this down, please. Let's slow this down, please. Take control. It's okay. Even if you're, no matter who, the person who says, let's slow down, is the person who's centered and is really helping. And how cool that your son he didn't say those words, but basically that's what he said, slow down, Mom, before you speak, So it's a great example of actually, even though you're the authority figure, he actually had the wisdom to slow it down. Great story. Thank you. Who else wants to share what comes up for them? Rob.
There we go.
Because I spent most of my childhood, as you say, at a 9, house was on fire, it's the levels of stress and tension that I grew up in, level of fear and all that stuff, all of that was really hard to deal with until the very moment my first child was born. And I think it was at that point I started giving myself empathy for what I went through, because I'm looking at my child, and he's like looking at me like, you have to protect me. And it always took me right back to when I was just a little guy, and I mean, before I could even speak, getting beaten for whatever. It didn't matter. If I was in front of the TV, I'd catch a foot in the head or something like that. So bringing my kids up, not one of them knows what their father went through. And it's really hard, because I was told by psychologists, yes, been to quite a few throughout my life, that abused children grow up to abuse children.
Yeah.
I really had to work at that one. Kids do stuff, and you do react really quickly. And I mean, I've reacted really quickly a couple of times to my youngest son. He's just like me. He's my replacement. And he gets hurt real easily. And I'm looking around for somebody to beat up or, blame or, something. Got to defend my son. But I look at him, he's like, he just looked at his hand. He goes, I got hurt, Dad. That, it wasn't until I had my children that I learned to forgive what happened to me.
And I just want to acknowledge the beauty of the healing of that cycle. And thank you for changing the cycle of your ancestry. Thank you for being the person that says, okay, this is where it ends and this is where it changes. So God bless you for that. Big twinkling for Rob. Yeah. I mean, there's funny, the conversation today, I had a conversation about what does it mean to be heroic? And someone is saying, well, heroic is, saving lives. And well, yeah, that's what we get from the movies, but I think it's heroic anytime we change our ancestral lineage. Anytime we say, alcoholism stops with me. Abuse, domestic abuse stops with me, right? That to me is very heroic, right? Being a considerate mother or father, that's heroic, because I didn't get that as a child, but I'm going to give that to my children. That's heroic to me. So, anybody else want to share what's come up for you so far? Mimi.
Rob, I just really want to thank you for what you shared, especially the last part really resonated in my heart around the idea that forgiving your past, and so that you can be more available as a parent. I think I have a question around this. So we have a son, and he's chosen to go to high school, and every day it's something like just horrific. Like he didn't go to the bathroom for 9 hours because he was warned to not go to the bathroom, and he had to go. He got in there and there was a fight, and he got his head bashed into a urinal. So he just stopped going to the bathroom. But it's every day, it's something like that. And I was homeschooling and unschooling before that, and he just chose this path. And I chose, most days I'm like, okay, do you want me to listen? Do you want, how do I support you? But I feel like I just get to this place, like my top need for my children is safety. And every day having him come home, because I didn't feel safe as a child, like every day having a 14-year-old come home and that his safety, like a basic need, isn't even considered at that in the school system. I love the idea of walking away, taking a breath. But while I'm driving him home, I'm like, can I just pull the car over and walk for the rest of the way? So I'm just recognizing, like, every day I'm feeling that, like, how do I support this young person? So my need of wanting to support somebody who's in a very, what I consider unsafe place. So that's a high trigger point for me. So any suggestions around that would be, I'm going to go through the list again. I don't have it in front of me, but I recognize, like, my heart starts going really fast and my reaction, my trigger is, what can I do about this? That's the overwhelm. So thank you.
So let's all twinkle Mimi and let's all hold a prayer. Let's just take a moment of silence as we look at Mimi. Let's just all hold the vision. What's your son's name?
Gabriel.
Gabriel. Maximum grace for Gabriel. Maximum grace for Gabriel. And maximum grace for Gabriel's mother, Mimi, as she struggles with how to manage the pain of her son, having such precious needs not being met. Maximum grace. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Of course, there's no immediate, obvious, practical solution. I mean, there might be, but it's not, we don't have enough details or specifics. So what we just did is one part of what's needed. It's not the only thing needed. Prayer is not the, pray to Allah and tie your camel. This is the pray to Allah part. Right. But I really appreciate Yogananda taught the prayer of maximum grace, because we don't know sometimes what's best. We think we know. Please may he heal from the cancer. Please may he get this job. Please may, yeah. But we don't know. Maybe it's not about healing from the cancer on the highest level. Maybe it's not about getting the job. Maybe it's about Gabriel finding strength and discernment. We don't know. We don't know. But maximum grace, when we do put out to the world, because we do have an impact, our prayer matters. The vision we hold for our loved ones and for the world does matter. It does matter. It does make a difference. It may not make the difference we want. It may not make the obvious difference, but it does matter. And so mourning our sadness, feeling our pain and acknowledging it, not stuffing it. And if you need to pound a pillow, pound that pillow. And if you need to cry, cry. And mourning, absolutely. And then maximum grace for all concerned. And I know that when I do maximum grace prayer, I always feel a little bit better. It might not be solved, but I feel a little bit better. I'm just curious, Mimi, even how does it feel for you, just that minute or two of
very tender. Yeah, vulnerable and leaning in. So yes, I love that. And maybe I'll bring a pillow for the ride home. But yes, thank you. And the wisdom behind that. You know, I'm not here to solve it. I'm here to expand the space around it. So yeah,
exactly.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Oh, let's twinkle Mimi one more time. Okay. Anything else that's up for people so far? We've got a little bit more of the thing to, but Laura and then Aaron. Laura and then Aaron.
I always try to make mine as short as possible, but I just wanted to offer something that I learned from Byron Katie. Most of us have probably heard of her. One day she walked in and her two older sons were fighting. They were wrestling in the living room. And she was terrified that they were going to hit the big glass table because they were wrestling and they were both saying, Mom, Mom, make him stop. And they're both 21, 20. And so Byron was thinking, oh my God, they're going to hit the glass table. In that moment, she realized if she knew the glass table was there, they knew it too. And she let go.
Mm.
So I just wanted to offer that.
Yeah, that's a great one. Thank you. Let's all twinkle Laura and Byron Katie through Laura. Okay. Aaron.
So I just wanted to touch on your amazing choice of words with that maximum grace prayer. And I want to speak to the power of that, because as a mother, I can only imagine being in that position of wanting to be in that ultimate protector space. And when you're not there at school with them, they're in the bathroom being beat up by boys, it's like, that's gnarly. And so that maximum grace prayer, I feel, just even on a quantum level, it can be so powerful because it's like a quantum command, if you will.
Yeah.
That's commanding the spirits. Remember, like psyche means spirits that animate the being. And so when you speak and command spirits through prayer, maximum grace, you're commanding maximum grace through these spirits that are literally manifesting those actions, that animated experience in the bathroom. It's so powerful. And we often can think, oh, you know, that's not me. I'm not faith-based. But faith is simply believing in something that's an electromagnetic impulse to the universe that literally supports a manifestation. I call it an action potential. And so I just love that. And I just want to affirm it's really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you. I mean, I've been doing maximum grace for years, but you gave me a whole new insight about it just now, Aaron, that you're right. It is a command. It is a command. It is like we're harnessing our love, our care into a command that is the best wording I've ever heard that covers the bases, right? I mean, listen, if we all have maximum grace with everything that matters to us, we'll be in pretty good shape.
Yeah. And I just really want to quickly honor these mothers that I'm seeing show up for their kids. Like Allison, that story rocked my world, because just by showing up with that will to do what's right, you triggered a response in your children, and they became your teachers, reminding you what you taught them. And this is like that really powerful holographic reflective nature of the universe, that when we choose to do what's right, it triggers like all these chain reactions, not just in this physical realm, but in this astral realm, which is where the spirits are. They're actually manifesting the psyche and therefore animation of our world. So it's huge.
Beautiful. Thank you, Aaron. That was wonderful. Thank you. Okay, I am going to get back to our, let me cancel that. I'm going to go back to our document and work with it a little bit more. Kind of wrap us up. I love this group, by the way. I so look forward to Wednesday nights and Saturdays. You guys are awesome. All right, we were on giving yourself empathy, appreciating yourself. You know, same thing, you know, just since Mimi shared her story and Allison shared hers, appreciate yourself. You're always doing the best. Your mothers, you're both always doing the best you can. And sometimes it's so hard because you care so much, and how much do you get involved? And anyway, appreciate yourself. And the next one is cultivating character strengths. I'm going to pull up another document in a minute. What character strengths or virtues can I bring to this situation? So again, I want all of you to think about the situation you've been working with today. Think about whatever that scene was. And I am going to pull up another list, which is the list of character strengths. Let me just make it a little bit smaller so we can see it. There we go. All right. There we go. So again, I invite all of you to look at these words. Which of these words are character strengths or virtues you could bring to the situation you were in? So, obviously, like, I'm just going to use Allison for a minute. And she brought a lot of these. She could bring forgiving, peaceful, considerate, kind, reverent. Those are some of the words that jump out at me as I imagine her situation. So I'd like to invite all of you, once again, go into the chat box and put in which words are character strengths, virtues that you could bring to this situation that would help you and help the situation. Again, you can access the chat box by taking your cursor up to the top right-hand corner for most devices. And you'll see where it says more, and then you can find the chat box. Again, as we read each other's words, they're all such beautiful words. And we learn so much about each other. And again, we feel that common humanity, the incredible commonality that comes out. I'm going to keep it up for one more minute and then we'll come back. Isn't it wonderful when we, and it's a beautiful reframe, to look at, okay, what are my opportunities to learn here? What am I learning? What am I cultivating? Or what can I bring? Or what did I bring? Right? The list of character strengths is a wonderful, wonderful list to work with. And I appreciate that Mandy put about half the list into her her comments. Good job, Mandy. So I'm going to actually make tonight's class a little bit shorter. To be really honest, I've got a couple that flew in from out of town to work with me. And We've got some work to still do tonight. But here's what I'd like to ask all of you to do as the homework assignment. I'm going to go back to our list for a minute. And the homework are the additional questions to reflect and journal upon. So again, this document is now in the Facebook message thread. I'll also copy it and put it into the chat box. And I would love any of you that are willing to answer these questions, ideally tonight, you know, if you had the time set aside. And if not tonight, soon, and either post your responses, you know, on our Facebook page or the link, or if you want, you can private message me. Again, you don't have to, this is optional, but I'd love for you guys to do that. I'll put it in the chat box in a minute. I'll read them. What is this situation teaching me about myself? What painful stories can I rewrite or shift into a more empowering and life-affirming story? Can I find ways that the unmet values that I identified actually are being beautifully met in my life? Not necessarily by the situation or that person, but in my life. That's a really important pivot point, right? Because the unmet values are real. How can I get these values met? Are they being met in other ways in my life? What strategies can I create to get these needs met or these values met? Can I make requests to meet my needs that will cultivate connection and love rather than separation and fear? Huge, huge. Takes a little bit more slowing down, dropping into our heart, praying for maximum grace. Oh yeah, how can I meet these needs that cultivate a greater holistic experience? And then finally, is this trigger evoking an old wound, a veil of past pain that's longing for love and healing? And believe me, when we have big painful triggers as adults at the age we're all at, it's almost always re-stimulating an older wound, longing to be healed, or longing to be understood, or longing to be honored and managed. So, any thoughts or questions about kind of that homework assignment? You guys all get that? Yeah. I thought I copied it. Hang on one second. I'm going to go back through for a minute. Oh gosh, I accidentally closed it, and I thought I had copied it. Here it is. Edit. Copy. For some reason, it's not pasting. Let me try something else. I apologize. Would anybody like to? I'd love for somebody cover for me, quick. Somebody share what's come up for you while I try and get this copied. Anybody want to share what's up?
Let's all unmute ourselves and just
Let's get Angel to step up.
let's see more of Daniel's art.
I would love to add something, just to the power of like that quantum aspects of reality and the psyche. I realized recently that the name human comes from the ancient Egyptian god Hu, which was the god of word. And so we're literally gods of these thought forms we call words that become spirits. And that's why it is so powerful to really take our authority as sovereign beings and decree what we want to do in our lives. So I just want to add that.
Thank you, Aaron. That is very powerful. I'm commanding right now.
Yeah, that's why like things like Ho'oponopono are so powerful, because you're working on the realm of those spirits that create the psyche, and the psyche is what animates the world. So it's just so powerful.
Well, for some reason, Zoom doesn't let me copy and put it, so I am going to put it into the homework assignment. I'm putting it into the Facebook private message thread, and it does copy and go there okay.
Scott, can I just have you send that to me because I'm not on Facebook?
Yes, I will send that to you. Absolutely. All right, you guys. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful group.
I think it was a really
Beautiful. And I look forward to any additional homework or thoughts and such. And of course, I'll see you all, or hopefully all of you, on Saturday morning. I want to welcome Joy Tyler. She didn't turn on her camera tonight, but thank you, Joy, for joining us. This is her first class with us. And Angel, really glad to have you with us. Good night, everybody. Blessings to you. Good night.
night.
That it?
That's it.